What is up, everybody? Luke Film Boss here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Fast X. And this one is a bit of a funny case, whereas like modern cinema is just a funny case half the time because you gotta take what you can get anymore. Sometimes you get a really good, sweet gem, but most of them, they're just fun popcorn flicks that are well crafted, and you just gotta take them when you can get them. And Fast X is one of those fun popcorn, pretty well put together like movies that you get in the summertime. Much better than F9, although F9 had its merits, but overall F9 was one of the worst, even in the entire Fast and Furious franchise. Like, F9 just had a lot of its own story problems and just weird cars going to space problems, and like just it went too over the top, whereas Fast X takes things probably even more over the top in a way than F9, but it's more grounded in a little bit of reality, and there's actual like realistic stakes at hand. And I like how rather than just like with F9 they just shoehorned in Dom Toretto having a brother, this time they shoehorn in a character, but it actually has a connection to a previously established event. Sure, Jason Momoa's Dante character or whatever is shoehorned in to the fifth movie where they steal the bank vault or whatever. Not whatever, that's what happens. They steal a vault, and they kind of shoehorn in Dante as this character who like lost his dad in that, like, his dad was the main crime boss dude, and now he's going for revenge or whatever. And it works. Jason Momoa has such a over-the-top performance that I'm surprised it actually works, because it can be like way too over-the-top at times. Like, you can tell he's acting like this is not the way people act in real life. Like, I don't know how he pulled it off, because it's entertaining, it's fun, and it actually works, even though I don't see even a crazy psychopath acting the way he does. But his personality is just weird, but it's also unique in a way. Like, sure, he's kind of like trying to do a Heath Ledger Joker kind of thing, but he's not nearly that good. So it comes off as sillier, but yet he still is felt as a menace of a villain in this film. So that was a good installment, because it actually takes something that was previously established in a previous Fast and Furious movie, and it builds upon that. Like, sure, Fast and Furious is notorious for shoehorning in characters or bringing characters back from the dead and stuff like that. Something that happens closer to the end of this movie. I won't spoil who gets brought back to life, but there's a spoiler. Somebody just comes back from the dead, because apparently they weren't really dead. Just like with Han's character, you think he's dead. Like, they kill him off in Tokyo Drift, and then they kind of bring him back, but it's like in the prequel stuff that takes place before Tokyo Drift. And so you get to see who Han is, and you love him as a character. And then it gets back into the timeline like that takes place after Tokyo Drift when he's dead. And then F9 just brings Han back for no reason. But yay, we got Han back, and he's fun in this movie. Most of the side characters like Han, Roman, the Logic or Ludacris or whatever the guy plays, and the other characters, side characters and stuff, they're fun. They have their own little side missions, and they actually have like a few good like actual like character moments, like especially with Roman. It's like a joke running through the movie that he's like leading his first mission, and then it goes terribly wrong. It was a setup and all this stuff, and it goes badly. And then by the end, you have the Ludacris guy. He's just like just picking on him the whole movie. And then at the end, like, there's actually a wholesome moment with the two. So, like, I like stuff like that. Like, this movie, it's not super deep. It's not super, like, I don't know. It's not super great from a character or narrative point of view, but it does just enough to make it a fun, worthwhile action movie to go see in the summer. It's not just like a waste of your time, sort of like F9 was. Even F9 had its merits, like I said, like that. I liked a lot of the backstory stuff, even though it was kind of shoehorned in. I like some of that stuff in F9, but the whole movie as a whole is just, no, it wasn't good enough. But Fast X, especially with Dom Toretto and Letty and some of those other characters, they utilize them very well. I really liked the relationship that John Cena's character has now that he's like part of the family now again. The relationship that he has with Dom's kid and as his uncle, and there's a lot of good stuff with that. And the last thing I want to say about Fast X is that I saw online some comparisons saying like this is the Infinity War, like Avengers Infinity War of the Fast and Furious franchise. And I can see that. It's like the part one of the two-part finale, and it has like a cliffhanger ending. Spoiler, cliffhanger ending. I don't know if anybody is going to care that I spoiled that. It's definitely leading into a second part. Like, it does not work ending where it was. It is easily the biggest cliffhanger that this franchise has done. It's actually one of the better cliffhanger endings I've seen. I'm sure Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is going to be a whopper of a cliffhanger. It's just... Fast X just works as a solid movie. That's really what I gotta say. It's like got really well designed, like edited and just put together. The action is really well put together. That's one of this movie's strong suits, because the action, although it is over the top, it's a little bit more grounded than the last, and even maybe even the last two installments. The action just feels more real in this movie. Like, sure, that finale is like a little bit like over the top, kind of big, but it works, and it's the finale, so yeah. But this movie's just crazy with the action. It is so entertaining. Like, this movie pretty much is a good excuse for why this franchise even still exists, because you don't really get this kind of action in any other movie, because they just take so many liberties with how cars actually work and how physics work, and yet somehow they make it believable. That's something that most franchises can't pull off in any way that means anything. But Fast and Furious does it. That's why there's like 11 movies in the franchise, and they're still making money. So I just gotta say, story isn't super deep. It's just like a villain wants revenge, and he starts tearing apart Dom's family. It leaves off with a big cliffhanger ending, which I'm not going to spoil what happens. Just know that people, at least according to what we see on screen, people do die. And it's just, like, leaves off at a place where you're like, that's where they're leaving it? I definitely need to see how this ends. That's how I feel. It's Fast and Furious. It shouldn't be, like, one of the biggest things on my list, but it might be, because that's just how cliffhanger endings work for me. They make me excited. Some people get annoyed with them, but this is probably one of the better cliffhanger endings, like behind Infinity War and Dead Man's Chest. I'm trying to think of another good cliffhanger ending. Like, this year we're getting a lot of good, like, movies that are coming with, like, just the part one, like Spider-Verse. We got Mission Impossible and this Fast and Furious. It's just a lot of interesting things that Hollywood's doing right now. Like, the part one, part two is something that kind of the YA movie started with Harry Potter and the Twilight, and then the Mockingjay with the Hunger Games. And then we started seeing it a little bit more, and now we're just seeing it, like, that's how these, like, long-lasting franchises, like Mission Impossible, Fast and Furious, they're putting these, like, part one, part two endings, and it's working. It works for me. Fast X was just really fun. That's the best way I can explain it to you. If you're a fan of the Fast and Furious, go see it. If you're not a fan of the Fast and Furious, you don't need to see it, but I would say maybe if you've seen the movies, this is definitely worth checking out. But if you don't like cliffhanger endings, then I would say wait till the 11th part comes out. So those are really my thoughts. I don't have an official, like, score made up for this movie. I would put it somewhere in the mid-80s, like maybe 84, 85, maybe if I thought about it some more, 83. But I think I'd give it somewhere in like the 84 and 85 percentile range out of 100. So that is my review of Fast X. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help you be on the lookout for more videos from Luke Film Boss.